A few years ago, I watched a film in Italian called La Settima Stanza, The Seventh Room. It was about the life of a saint, Saint Teresa, um, a Jewish woman who converted to Catholicism, and she took the name. Her name was Edith Stein, and she took the name Saint Teresa Benedicta. I mean, the movie was, if you've seen it, it was quite incredible, very poignant, and there's this famous scene at the end of the movie when Edith Stein is walking naked into the gas chamber. The silhouette of this woman walking naked into a gas chamber, and she's holding her sister. What I can never understand how humanity can be so cruel, especially towards women and children and those who embody what is true, good, and beautiful in this world. How could anybody do this? But Edith Stein is one of the greatest women of the last century in many respects. She died 80 years ago today. She was 50 years old. Simply one of the greatest women to have lived. And she leaves behind not just her works, because if she had lived through the war, would we have known her today? This was all part of God's plan. She left behind not just her works. This is a saint that is, incredible. I'm just going to read you here one of the quotes that I always found, incredibly interesting. Let me get it here. I was looking at it earlier. To suffer and to be happy, although suffering, is to have one's feet on the earth, to walk on the dirty and rough paths of this earth, and yet to be enthroned with Christ at the Father's right hand, to laugh and cry with children of this world, unceasingly sing the praises of God, the choirs and angels. This is the life of a Christian until the morning eternity breaks forth. I mean, she was a woman, in the great Carmelite spirituality, you're able to make God present in your life. He's your everything. A Carmelite spirituality kind of opens you up to a whole new world of understanding how to relate to God, because it starts that conversation going, and once you have this conversation going with God, he's all around you. He embodies the oxygen you breathe. You're just saying, well, I don't want this conversation to stop. And so, Edith Stein, as a woman, she leaves behind that. I mean, as these women saints, I don't know what they have. They just have this ability to capture God in a totally different light than men seem to be able to do it. I don't know why. And when you read them, you read Saint Teresa of Lisieux, another saint that, her simplicity and is just her writings just scream true, good and beautiful. You're just there. It's like Saint Teresa of Avila. Edith Stein really captivates that as well, for me anyway. I remember going to Auschwitz and to where she died. I don't remember actually the actual place where she died. I remember where Maximilian Kolbe died. And just to imagine the horror that's captivated in that movie, the La Settima Stanza, the Seventh Room. And I will never forget it. And I think we owe Edith Stein, and we owe her people we owe them the truth. We owe this world the truth to keep going in this search for what is true, good and beautiful. We have to make sure future generations don't suffer what we have done before. I mean, it's 80 years later since she died, and we've a war in Ukraine. We've a war about to erupt in Asia. And there's no doubt about it. Let's not kid ourselves. China will go to war. They will not posture forever. They will go to war. We will have a war in Asia and in Europe, and God knows where elsewhere. This is foregone conclusion. I said this last year. This is not prophecy or anything spiritual here. I'm just saying, if you connect the dots, this is where we're marching towards, to war, sadly, again. And how do we stop this? How do we voice this? How do we ensure a generation is not destroyed in despair? You know, it's very, very sad where we see the world going. Even without war, we see a generation now that has lost the ability to understand what is true, good and beautiful. I mean, there was another quote that caught me. All those who seek truth seek God, whether this is clear to them or not. And do not accept anything as love which lacks truth. I mean, so many people today are looking for love, but it's false love. It doesn't have the truth to underpin it. Do you know what I mean? A one-night stand, they call it making love, but there's no truth in that love. It doesn't carry to eternal life. It just uses one person and satisfies the pleasure of another. So I would love to see more people blogging about her, or expanding out her life. I'm trying to do that. I wish I had more time, but we owe this generation. We owe our children. We have to show our children the beauty of what Edith Stein was leaving the world, because this woman, she looked for the truth. Her whole life is, you could just write it across her, a woman who searched for the truth, and she found it. She grabbed onto it, and she kept it safe. I mean, she gave her life for the truth. She stood, and it's quite incredible. I just thought, I don't think we could pass today without remembering her. I was in Rome when during the process of her canonization and beatification, as far as I remember, and there was a lot of debate about, they were issuing statements. No, we're not trying to convert Jews by holding her up as an example. But the reality is, we shouldn't shy away from the fact that Edith Stein found the truth. We shouldn't be ashamed to say Edith Stein gave her life for what is true, good and beautiful. And she gave her life for the way, the truth and the life, for Christ. She stood for him. She wasn't ashamed to say Christ is the way, the truth and the life. And us Catholics today shouldn't be ashamed to say that Christ is the way, the truth and the life. He's the only way, the only truth and the only life. He is their way. And we shouldn't be afraid of that. We shouldn't be afraid to open the world to this beautiful encounter with Christ, who was the Messiah. Anyway, just a short commentary today, and just to remember her. And I think it's important that we don't forget this amazing woman. I think I have a book. It's a book I was reading. Communion with Christ according to Saint Teresa Benedicta of the Cross, and an amazing book. I found it very, very encouraging, very incredible. But we have to let her be the example of somebody who is searching for the truth for us. And there's no better woman to do this than her. And pray for the world at this time, that we don't face more situations like her. I was very sad. I remember what was happening in the Balkans. It's amazing to see what was happening in Europe and Balkans in the 1990s. Did we learn nothing? We dehumanize other people. Anyway, God bless. Take care. Bye bye.